The daylight was starting to fade when I arrived at the abandoned school in Detroit. The building, a shadow of its former glory, loomed before me, with broken windows and walls covered in graffiti. The wind blew, carrying a smell of mold and desolation. As I approached, a strange feeling overcame me, as if something or someone was watching me. "It's just a school, Alex. Calm down." I murmured to myself, trying to shake off the feeling that I wasn't alone. The entrance door creaked as I pushed it open, and an intense chill enveloped me. The interior was even darker than I had expected, with long, empty corridors where the walls seemed to whisper forgotten secrets. I walked slowly, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the silence. Dust danced in the beams of light that filtered through the broken windows. The floor was covered in debris, and I felt as if I were stepping into a place where time had stopped. Curiosity guided me, and I couldn't help but admire the walls filled with old photographs. Students and teachers smiled at me, their expressions frozen in a moment of happiness, contrasting with the emptiness and sadness that now filled that space. "Look at this," I said aloud, more to break the silence than to actually expect a response. The feeling of being watched intensified with every step I took. It was as if the souls of those who had passed through here still wandered the halls, invisible to the eyes but palpable in the air. Suddenly, a distant echo cut through the silence. "Alex!" The voice was soft, almost like a whisper, but it sounded strangely familiar. My heart raced and I turned quickly, but there was no one there. Just the sound of the wind and the rustling of something unknown. A chill ran down my spine, and I wondered if I should continue. But curiosity was stronger than fear. It must just be the winds, or maybe my imagination, I thought, trying to convince myself. However, the voice seemed to have a pull, as if calling me to discover something I didn't yet understand. I pressed on, delving deeper into the dark corridors. The hanging lights were broken and flickered, as if trying to send me a message. I walked to a classroom, the door ajar. The air inside was still, and the smell of old wood and dust was almost suffocating. The space was a testament to a distant past, with desks in disarray and chalkboards covered in old chalk. The atmosphere was heavy, and I felt as if I were intruding on a sacred place. As I explored the room, something caught my attention. A pile of dusty photos was lying in a corner. When I picked them up, I saw faces of children who looked happy, mixed with images of teachers who were no longer there. Each of these photos was a window into a time long gone, and I couldn't help but wonder what had happened to those people. Why was all of this abandoned? I murmured to myself as a distant echo of my name resonated again. "Alex!" The sound was closer now, and the cold increased. A feeling of urgency washed over me. It was as if I were being guided by something I couldn't see. The sensation of being watched intensified, and I knew I needed to find out what was happening. The echo of the voice continued, and curiosity drove me to move forward. With each step, the corridors seemed to stretch infinitely, as if the school were alive, ready to reveal its secrets. What would I find next? My heart raced, and the mystery of the abandoned school was just beginning to unfold before me. The classroom was enveloped in an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of my breathing. The smell of mold and decaying wood permeated the air, and the desks, covered in dust, seemed to be witnesses to a long-ago past. The dim light that entered through the broken windows illuminated the remnants of a world that had once been vibrant. As I approached the chalkboard, where a teacher's handwriting was still visible, I felt a chill run down my spine. Something here was wrong. It was then that my eyes were drawn to an object standing out among the shadows. A diary. It was on a table, surrounded by yellowed papers and broken pens, as if someone had left in a hurry. With a hesitant gesture, I reached out and picked it up, feeling the dusty texture of the leather cover. When I opened it, a cloud of dust rose and I sneezed, trying not to succumb to the feeling that something was watching me. The pages were yellowed, but the handwriting was clear and legible. "My name is Emily," the first entry began. The words seemed to dance in front of me, and I let my curiosity take over. Emily spoke of visions, of a dark place that haunted her in her dreams. "The school is alive," she wrote. "I feel that something is here, something that doesn't belong to this world." With each line, my heart raced. I could feel her anguish, as if her emotions were intertwining with mine. Reading became a ritual, and I was absorbed by her words. Emily described moments of discomfort, as if the walls of the school could hear and keep secrets. "Today, I saw a shadow in the music room," she noted in one of her entries. "It moved as if it was calling me. I don't know if I can handle this." The diary ended abruptly, and a lump formed in my throat. What could have happened to her? Suddenly, a crack echoed through the room, and one of the windows slammed shut with a bang, making my heart race. I looked around, feeling panic set in. It was then that I heard my name again. "Alex." The voice was soft, but it had an urgent tone that made me hesitate. The sensation of being pulled away from reality intensified. What was this voice? What did it want from me? "Emily," I called, my voice sounding strange in the silence. "Are you here?" But there was no answer, just the echo of my words returning to me. Curiosity consumed me, and the need to uncover more about what had happened at the school overshadowed my fear. I needed to follow that voice. I needed to understand what was happening. I took a deep breath, and with the diary in hand, I decided I could no longer stay in that room. Emily's pages were calling me, and I needed to discover what else they had to say. With hesitant steps, I made my way towards the door, but before leaving, I glanced back at the diary one more time, as if it were a portal to the past. "You are not alone," I murmured, even knowing she couldn't hear. As I crossed the threshold of the door, the hallway before me appeared darker, as if the shadows were stretching and swallowing the light. I felt a shiver run down my spine. The voice continued to echo, stronger now, as if urging me to move forward. "Alex." My heart raced, and adrenaline surged through my veins. What was I about to discover? I didn't know, but curiosity and the need to understand what had happened to Emily propelled me down the hallway, toward the unknown. The school, with its secrets and mysteries, awaited me, and I was determined to unravel each one of them. The hallway ahead seemed to stretch infinitely, enveloped in a darkness that felt almost tangible. The echo of my own heartbeat resonated in my eardrums as I moved hesitantly, the light filtering through the broken windows barely illuminating the path. It was then that, amidst my thoughts, I saw something move to my right. A shadow. Not just any shadow, but a figure that seemed to materialize and dematerialize as I approached. "Hello." The words slipped from my lips, almost a whisper. No one answered, but the figure remained there, as if caught between two worlds. My feet, which had hesitated to move, finally found courage. I wanted to know. I needed to know. As I drew closer, the figure took shape. It was a girl, her long, tangled hair falling over her shoulders. She seemed to be my age, but her gaze was deep, as if it carried the weight of a story I could barely imagine. "Are you lost?" I asked, feeling my voice tremble. She slowly turned her head, and for a brief moment our eyes met. Time seemed to stop. "Alex," she whispered, the sound of my name echoing like a mantra in my mind. My heart raced. How did she know my name? "Who are you?" I wanted to know, but the girl simply shook her head. "I am looking for something." Before I could ask more, the figure began to dissipate, like smoke in the wind. "Wait," I shouted, reaching out in an attempt to grasp her, but it was too late. She had vanished in an instant, and I was left there, alone and confused. The hallway now felt even more oppressive. The sensation of being watched returned with full force. I could swear the walls had eyes, that the shadows whispered secrets I wasn't prepared to hear. I looked around, trying to understand what had just happened. Had that encounter been real, or just a hallucination brought on by the heavy air and dust? Emily, I murmured to myself, recalling the diary I had found earlier. The thought that I might have encountered Emily herself left me unsettled. What was she searching for? And why did my name roll off her lips, as if it were something sacred? I decided to move forward, each step echoing in the silence of the place. The hallway seemed never-ending, and with every step, the feeling of despair grew. This school is a maze, I thought as I glanced around, trying to find something that would give me a clue about what was happening. I needed to get out of there. Suddenly, a new wave of whispers filled the air. Alex! The voice was clearer now, coming from further ahead. The fear that had once paralyzed me was now transforming into uncontrollable curiosity. I couldn't simply ignore it. It was as if the school was calling me, as if I were a missing piece in a puzzle that needed to be solved. "I'm coming," I replied, my voice firmer than I expected. What was I doing? Following a voice that could belong to a tormented spirit? But there was something inside me that told me I needed to understand. As I approached a corner, the whisper turned into a muffled scream. "Alex, please." It was the same voice, now laden with desperation. I hesitated for a moment, doubt gnawing at my stomach. "What is happening?" I asked, almost shouting. But there was no answer, just the deafening silence of the school. Then, with a sudden impulse, I turned the corner, and what I saw left me paralyzed. A group of shadows was there, as if reenacting a classroom scene. The faces were indistinct, but the atmosphere was charged with a strange nostalgia that reminded me of times I had not lived. This school is alive, I thought, a chill running down my spine. I wanted to scream, but the words got lost in my throat. What was I witnessing? A reminiscence of the past? Or something more sinister? With my heart in my throat, I moved forward slowly. But as I did, the figures began to disappear, as if they knew I was there. Despair took hold of me again, and I hesitated. "Come back!" I shouted impulsively, but it was too late. The shadows dissipated, and the hallway was empty once more. What was I really searching for? What did this school want to show me? The questions piled up in my mind, but the only certainty I had was that I was in a place where past and present intertwined in a terrifying way, and I couldn't turn back. The music room was shrouded in an unsettling dimness, and the sound of the piano resonated with a melancholic melody that seemed to dance through the heavy air. Each note vibrated in my chest, bringing forth a wave of memories from my childhood carefree moments. Laughter with my friend Jake, the days when everything seemed possible. It was as if the school were alive, trying to tell me an ancient story, but I could barely hear it over the echoes of my own life. "Jake," I murmured to myself, a tightening in my heart making me hesitate. The piano continued to play, its strings vibrating with a lament that enveloped me. A part of me wanted to pull away, but another part was fascinated, as if the music was calling me to stay. It was both an invitation and a warning. The door behind me slammed shut, and I turned abruptly, the sound echoing in the empty room. "Hey, is anyone there?" My voice sounded strange, as if I were calling a spirit. The silence that followed was deafening, and the music intensified, transforming into a deep lament that reverberated against the walls. "You can't leave," a feminine voice whispered, as soft and cold as the wind passing through a broken window. It was as if the school was manifesting, revealing its dark truths. "Stay and listen." "Who is there?" I asked, fear beginning to infiltrate my courage. There was no one visible, but the feeling of being watched increased with each passing moment. The piano played faster and faster, as if trying to tell me something urgent. Each chord seemed to pull a thread of emotion within me, a memory I couldn't grasp. I was trapped, not just physically, but emotionally tangled in memories I had tried to bury. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted, trying to break the pressure building in my chest. "Why won't you let me go?" The music stopped abruptly, and a terrifying silence fell over the room. Then a soft, almost childlike laughter echoed off the walls. "You don't understand, Alex. We are part of each other now." My heart raced. "Who are you?" I forced myself to ask, my voice trembling. "Are you Emily?" "Emily is here, but she is not alone. We are all here, waiting for you." The voice seemed to float, surrounding me like a cold breeze. I looked around, the room beginning to spin slowly, the shadows of the walls contorting. "This isn't real," I shouted, trying to push away the feeling that I was losing control. "I just wanted to explore." "Explore? You wanted to know the truth." The voice was unison, as if multiple souls were speaking at once. "But the truth comes at a price, Alex." The locked door seemed like a portal to freedom, but now it transformed into an insurmountable barrier. I was trapped in a cycle of pain and regret, surrounded by the memories of those I had lost and the weight of choices I hadn't made. "Jake, I couldn't I didn't know." My voice faltered, and frustration mixed with sorrow. The piano began to play again, now a sad melody that made my heart ache. It was as if the music mourned not only Emily's loss, but also my own. "You have to choose, Alex. Stay or leave." The voice resonated with a force that made me tremble. "You can help free our souls or join us in eternity." The shadows began to close in, and the room seemed to shrink. I looked at the piano, the black and white keys shining like the lights of a distant city. "No, I want to stay here," I shouted, moving toward the door, but the music intensified, and the lament turned into a deafening scream. "You can't escape the truth, Alex." The voices repeated as I desperately tried to open the door, but it was firmly locked, as if the school were determined to keep me there, in its cold embrace. The room began to spin around me, the music now transforming into a chorus of screams, and I realized that it wasn't just the school that was alive. It was the souls that had been lost, trapped in an endless cycle of pain and regret. And suddenly, I knew I needed to face not only the ghosts of the school, but also my own. Desperate, I took a deep breath as my eyes fixed on an old bulletin board on the wall. It was covered in yellowed and faded clippings, a collage of forgotten memories. The title in bold letters read "Disappearances at Central Detroit School." The images of smiling students at school events contrasted with the news of their mysterious absences. My heart raced as I read the dates, some coinciding with the time when Jake disappeared. A wave of deja vu hit me hard, as if I were trapped in a cycle of regret. "It can't be," I murmured to myself, feeling a chill run down my spine. My fingers brushed against a photo of a girl with a sad look. It was Emily. Her name reverberated in my mind, and the memory of Jake began to blend with that distorted reality. I should have done something. I should have been there for him. A child's laughter echoed down the hallway, breaking my lament and making me shudder. "Who's there?" I shouted, but my voice sounded small and insignificant in that empty space. The laughter persisted, calling me once again, and I couldn't resist. The door to a room beside me began to slowly open, as if an invisible force was inviting me in. The urge to discover what lay beyond that door was irresistible. So, even with my heart racing, I stepped forward. As I crossed the threshold, the room welcomed me with a smell of mold and aged wood. I looked around, and what I saw paralyzed me. A mural covered the entire wall, filled with photos of missing students. My breath almost stopped when I recognized Emily's face, but the real shock came when I saw Jake's photo next to hers. They were together in a frozen smile, as if nothing were wrong, and a wave of pain surged through my chest. "Jake, what happened to you?" I whispered, the words coming out as a lament. A feeling of guilt washed over me, a memory of when he asked me for help and I hesitated. "I should have supported you, I should have." "Alex!" Jake's voice echoed in the back of my mind, and I could almost swear I heard him. But it couldn't be, he was missing. "Alex, help me! Jake, where are you?" I shouted, my desperation growing with every second. The photos seemed to watch me, the faces of the lost students reflecting my anguish. I was surrounded by those souls, trapped in a cycle of pain and regret. The children's laughter intensified, echoing through the room, as if the spirits were having fun at my expense. "You can't escape, Alex," a female voice whispered, and I turned abruptly, but there was no one there. "We've always been here. Don't you realize? Who is talking? What do you want from me?" The room began to spin slowly, as if time were distorting around me. The lights started to flicker, and I felt like I was losing my sense of where I was. The voices blended into a deafening chorus, and I couldn't distinguish what was real and what was just an illusion. "Help us, Alex." Emily's voice was now clear and anguished. "You can free us. You know what you need to do. But how? What do I need to do?" I pleaded, distressed. Panic grew, and I felt I was about to be swallowed by the darkness surrounding me. The room spun faster, and I found myself surrounded by shadows, indistinct figures moving quickly around me. "Don't run. We are part of you now," the voices sang in unison, and I realized that somehow I had never been alone. They were there, watching me, waiting for me to confront my fears. A blinding light began to emanate from the mural, making the faces in the photos appear even more alive. I was caught between the past and the present, fighting against the ghosts that surrounded me. "You can't keep me here," I shouted, but the light began to envelop me, and the room spun even faster, pulling me into an endless abyss. I was about to discover the truth, but I didn't know if I was ready to face what was about to be revealed. The room that opened before me looked like a time tunnel, a space outside the logic of the world I knew. My heart raced as I crossed the threshold, greeted by a handmade mural filled with black and white photos of young, smiling faces. A chill ran down my spine as I realized that there were the faces of all the missing students. I was drawn to one particular photo. It was Emily, with her radiant smile, but beside her was another face that made me stop dead in my tracks. It was Jake, the same Jake I hadn't seen in years, but whose memories had never stopped haunting me. I murmured, trying to process what was before me. The connection between them, between this place and my past, was so strong that I could almost touch it. I had turned away from Jake when he needed me the most, and now that came back to haunt me. The voices that called to me now took on a new meaning. They were not just echoes from the school's past. They were a call to confront my own regret, to face what I hadn't done. A knot formed in my throat, and memories began to flood my mind. I remembered the afternoons I spent with Jake, laughing and dreaming, and how, when he started to drift away, I turned a blind eye. "Alex?" A familiar voice echoed from the back of the room. It was soft, like a whisper, but powerful enough to make me shudder. I looked around, but there was no one. "Jake?" I called, my voice faltering. The silence that followed was deafening, and the only sound was the beating of my heart in my ears. Suddenly, a deafening scream cut through the air, causing my body to involuntarily shrink back. The room began to spin, the photos on the wall seeming to dance in a chaotic spiral. I didn't know if I was losing my sanity or if the school was truly alive, but the feeling that I was not alone intensified. "Alex!" Emily's voice echoed now, and I saw her, a shadow among the moving images. "Don't run away. You need to understand." I felt a pressure in my chest, as if the lost souls were crowding around me, trying to communicate, trying to make me see what I had ignored for so long. I looked back and saw a crowd of figures, pale and sorrowful faces, all with their eyes fixed on me. They were the missing students, and the expression on their faces was one of despair and anger. "You can't take me," I screamed, even knowing that the truth was more complex. In this school, I was not just a mere visitor. I was part of that story, of the pain and the choices I hadn't made. "Help us, Alex," a girl with long black hair whispered, her voice mingling with the collective lament. "You can change everything." The room began to shake, the walls distorting, and the blinding light that surrounded me seemed to be pulling me in. I knew this was my chance to confront not just the ghosts of Jake and Emily, but also the darkest part of myself. "What do I need to do?" I asked, my voice echoing amidst the chaos. The desperation was growing, but a spark of determination began to shine within me. "Face your fear," they all shouted in unison, and in that moment, I realized that it was not just a fight against the ghosts of the school, but an internal battle against the regrets I had carried for so long. The environment around me began to dissolve, and I knew the decision was in my hands. I could no longer hide. With one last look at the photos, at the faces watching me with anticipation, I took a deep breath and prepared for what was to come. The light was about to swallow me, but I was ready to face the darkness.